swore an oath to uphold the law. He wore the badge, he carried the gun, and according to investigators, he became part of the very criminal world he was supposed to fight. This is the story of one of New Jersey's most infamous police corruption scandals. Newark in the 1980s. The Newark of the late 1980s was a city under pressure. Violent crime was rising, the crack epidemic was devastating neighborhoods, and residents depended on police to maintain order. But behind the scenes, investigators began hearing disturbing rumors that some officers were crossing the line. The allegations. Federal and state investigators began looking into claims that certain officers were abusing their authority. Witnesses described a culture where some officers allegedly protected criminal activity, stole money, and used their positions for personal gain. At the center of the investigation was Newark police officer Joseph Santiago. The investigation. As investigators dug deeper, they interviewed witnesses, reviewed records, and followed leads throughout Newark. What they uncovered shocked the public. The allegations suggested corruption wasn't isolated to a single incident. Authorities believed the problem reached much deeper. The fall. Once the investigation became public, trust in the department suffered. Residents began asking difficult questions. How long had this been happening? Who knew? And how many cases had been affected? The scandal would become one of the most talked about corruption investigations in Newark history. The bigger question. Police officers are given extraordinary power. The power to arrest, the power to investigate, the power to enforce the law. But what happens when that power is abused? For many Newark residents, that question would linger long after the investigation ended. Years later, the case remains a reminder of how important accountability is in law enforcement. Most officers serve honorably, but when corruption takes root, even a few bad actors can damage public trust for generations. The badge is supposed to represent justice, but in this case, investigators believed it became something else entirely. A symbol of power, a symbol of corruption, and a warning that no one should be above the law.